I failed at a ton of stuff in my life. From failed publishing deals in the music industry, to falling short in real estate investments, to failed startups. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I haven't naturally possessed a conqueror's mindset. And I used to be a victim. I used to have a fixed mindset. So when I failed, I felt like I was a failure. I felt like, is there something wrong with me? The problem with thinking that you're special is that you probably think you have special problems too. When you fail, you might feel like no one else has failed as much as you. Like there's something inside you that's holding you back. Something that isn't inside of the people you look up to. Understanding the history of great people helps you understand the fact that you aren't actually that special. You might have failed, but that's okay because they failed too. Looking at these stories has always helped me have hope for my own creative entrepreneurial journey because I realize I'm not the only one. Here are 5 people that failed many times but ended up becoming successful. Number 1, Casey Neistat. So this is the life cycle of Casey as we know it. Casey had a kid at 15. He then dropped out of high school. He then dropped out of high school to go wash dishes and work 2 jobs back to back to put food on the table and buy diapers. He was in the cycle of poverty. He came across a computer and started editing. He moved to New York City. He lived in the ghetto. And after a few years, he'd become successful enough to do ads with Nike. But it was unfulfilling. He got an HBO show and it got canceled. You can probably picture yourself in a similar moment, coming so close to something big, but falling just short. This kind of failure can feel extremely draining because it's a continuous up and down roller coaster ride, and you just never know if you're gonna get to the finish line or not. He left everything in New York City to go live at MIT. He created Beam, an app startup. He also started his vlog at the same time to promote the startup. He was 34 years old. This is an age we typically count people out of the creative game. His startup failed, but his YouTube channel succeeded, and succeeded big. So there's a long line of wins, setbacks, more setbacks, and then a crazy upshoot into the world of your dreams. But this framework of success is not unique. Casey is a pretty special guy, but he also failed especially hard on his way to success. Number 2, Dave Portnoy owns the culture. You might have seen him at UFC events or maybe eating a slice. In 2003, Dave started a newspaper called Barstool Sports. Fun fact, the newspaper industry is dying 25% year over year. So this was a great decision. He bought an Astro van to deliver all the papers. He had no money for a long time. His girlfriend made him get a job. He actually quit that job and just randomly left one lunch hour. He threw parties, but no one would come besides him and the people that wrote for the paper. It slowly started growing. He delivered papers and threw parties for 5 years himself, and then it finally started to take off. His company grew to where it hit its breaking point and he needed an investment. And so he had to give up 20% of his company, which was worth $12 million at the time. Barstool is worth a couple $1 billion at this point. That $12 million deal is considered one of the greatest steals of the century. This dude delivered papers in an Astro van for 5 years. Barely had any money, and everyone counted him out. Look at him now. Number 3, Russ. So before Russ was the Russ we know today, he put out 11 projects. 11. And saw 0 success indicators. After doing this, he started to realize that people only really listen to the first couple songs on a project. So he decided to put out singles, 1 a week, for 2 years straight. Some of the biggest wins early on that kept him going was seeing 1,000 plays in 1 week on a song or 7,000 plays in 1 week on a video. Russ went from being a nobody, making hundreds of songs with no success, to selling out his own shows and playing for 13,000 people. Today, he has 13 million monthly listeners on Spotify, just did a collab with Ed Sheeran, and due to his consistency, he will most likely outcompete the biggest artists that are popping off right now. He makes probably around $100,000 every single week just because he owns his entire catalog. Number 4, Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast is known as the most prolific YouTuber of all time. He made more than 100 videos before getting any kind of traction. 100 videos. Let's say someone put out one video every week for an entire year. That's 52 videos. And you have to really consider the time that it takes to create one video. You have to do the shooting, the editing, the thumbnail, the color grading. There's a ton of stuff that goes into one video. Doing that for 100 videos straight or more with no real success indicators is extremely difficult and extremely taxing on your mind. Being a master of your mind is so deeply key to actually succeeding in anything you do. Jimmy wasn't always the GOAT. At one point, he was probably the WOAT. Number 5, Ed Mylett. Ed Mylett went to a Division I school for baseball. He remembered the feeling he had when he realized it was the last game he would ever play again. He realized he could have gave more. That if he would've, maybe he would've had a shot at the major leagues. So he took that feeling out into his professional life. He was in sales and was also extremely poor. He was so poor that he velcroed fake Mercedes mods to his car to make it look like a Mercedes. One time he went to a company event with his family where he realized he couldn't afford to eat out at the restaurants while he was there. So him and his wife had to go to the grocery store and eat food out of their hotel room for the entire week. And he recalls feeling like he didn't belong and he felt completely defeated and just insecure. He ended up becoming a killer salesman and leveraged that into businesses and other investments that he made. He now owns a private jet, a house in Laguna Beach, and an entire island. The common thread throughout all these stories is that all of them had failures at the beginning. None of them looked like they were gonna make it. They were counted out, they were laughed at, they were looked down on. They thought they were crazy for pursuing the things that they were pursuing because they were risky. But none of them quit. Maybe that's the major key. You can read the books, you can wake up early, you can be consistent, but the main thing is you just don't quit for a long time. You keep on going on the same thing for a long time.